The galaxy was old and full of memories. In its endless history, many races had risen and fallen, some burned bright like suns and some vanished like smoke in the dark. Among them, there was one name that carried both fear and wonder: humanity. The aliens remembered humans as a race of fire. They were loud, ambitious, and full of strange courage. They reached for the stars with broken machines. They fought enemies far stronger than themselves, and sometimes they won. But then, one day, they were gone. No war was seen. No final battle was recorded. The humans simply vanished. Centuries passed, and the galaxy grew comfortable. The empires laughed at the memory of Earth. They told stories of human madness, calling them reckless dreamers. In academies and palaces, humans were spoken of as warnings. Do not be like them, the elders said. They destroyed themselves. Children of alien worlds listened and believed, yet not everyone was sure. Among the stars, whispers began to rise. Strange signals were heard in empty systems, a pulse of energy that did not belong to any known race. Merchants told stories of shadowy ships that vanished when chased. Pirates swore they saw old human designs drifting in the void. Rumors spread, and fear began to grow. On the planet Vaynor, a council of alien rulers gathered. The great hall shone with crystal walls. Thousands of voices echoed as one leader spoke. The humans are gone, he declared. Their ruins are dust. Their ships are rust. Do not waste our time with children's tales. But another voice rose, softer yet sharper. It belonged to Zayron, a strategist who feared shadows more than light. He leaned forward and said, "Empires fall when they laugh at whispers. What if the humans did not vanish? What if they are watching?" The hall grew silent, but then laughter filled the air. The rulers mocked his words. Far away, on the edge of the galaxy, a silent system drifted. Its star was weak, its planets frozen. Nothing alive was supposed to exist there. Yet deep under the ice of one world, something moved. Machines hummed, lights flickered, and tunnels stretched for miles. It was a human stronghold. Generations had passed since Earth's fall, but humanity had not died. They had hidden, wounded but unbroken. They learned silence. They learned patience. They built their future not under open skies, but underground. Far from alien eyes, they forged weapons that shook like storms. Their children were raised not with songs of peace, but with stories of return. In one vast chamber, a boy named Aaron stood before a giant screen. His eyes were sharp, his hands clenched with pride. He listened as an elder spoke. "The galaxy thinks we are gone. They laugh at our name. But one day, child, they will hear our thunder." Aaron whispered back. "When?" The elder only smiled. For now, humanity waited. But the galaxy was restless. Alien fleets expanded, enslaving weaker races. Armies crushed rebellions. Trade guilds grew fat with power. No one feared the humans, not anymore. They thought the name was buried in dust, until the signals grew louder. On the edge of the Zael Dominion, a patrol ship caught something unusual. A strange code flickered across their scanners. The captain frowned. "This is old," he muttered. "Very old." The code was human, one used before the disappearance. The crew grew nervous. "Impossible," one said. "They are extinct." The captain saved the data, but fear crept into his mind. He sent the signal to the Dominion's council. They laughed at first, calling it a trick of static. But deep inside, unease began to rise, because if the humans truly were gone, then why did their voice still echo through space? And so the whispers grew into storms. Traders spoke of vanished fleets. Colonists claimed to see dark shapes beyond their moons. Everywhere the same words were whispered. What if they are back? In the hidden stronghold, the humans prepared. They had waited for centuries. They had buried their rage in silence. Now the storm inside them was too strong to hold. The galaxy believed humanity was gone, but the galaxy was wrong, and soon it would hear thunder. In the frozen system where humanity hid, silence was not weakness, it was a weapon. For generations, humans had lived without announcing their presence. They had become shadows among stars, watching the galaxy like hunters waiting for prey. Beneath the icy crust of the hidden world, enormous cities stretched like veins. Towers of steel rose under cavern ceilings. glowing with artificial suns. Factories hummed day and night, building warships piece by piece. Weapons were tested in deep caverns where no sound could escape. Humanity had turned its exile into a forge. Among the people there was discipline. Every child grew with training. Every worker knew the plan. Every soldier was bound by silence. They were not allowed to leave the system without reason. The galaxy must not know. Not yet. Humanity had survived by staying invisible. And now they were ready to return like thunder. Aaron, the boy who once questioned when the thunder would come, was now a young officer. His eyes carried the sharp fire of determination. He walked the steel corridors of the stronghold, his boots echoing against the walls. At his side marched soldiers wearing black armor marked with the emblem of a storm. They were known as the Silent Guard. The Council of Human Leaders met in the heart of the stronghold, a circular chamber of glass and steel, where glowing screens projected maps of the galaxy. At the center stood Admiral Kalen, a man whose voice carried weight like thunder itself. His hair was silver, but his eyes burned with a fire that had never dimmed. He looked at the maps and spoke. "The galaxy thinks we are gone, Bason Heat," said, his voice calm but deadly. "But they forget we are watching. We have seen their wars, their greed, their cruelty. They enslaved worlds, destroyed civilizations. They believed no one would challenge them, but they were wrong. The storm is ready." His words struck the chamber like lightning. Every officer straightened. Every soldier clenched their fists. Humanity's silence was ending, but the galaxy was already beginning to sense something was wrong. In the Zeal Dominion, reports piled up of missing patrols. Ships sent to the Outer Rim never returned. Traders claimed they saw strange ships darting through asteroid belts, silent as shadows. The ships bore no banners, no known design. Some swore they saw human shapes inside. The Dominion laughed at first, but their laughter cracked with fear. One night, in the city of Vanar Prime, a Dominion general awoke to a strange broadcast. A single voice repeated in an ancient code. It was human. It spoke only 7 words. "We are watching. We are closer than you think." Panic spread in silence. The rulers tried to keep it hidden, but fear has no walls. The whispers spread like wildfire. Was humanity truly gone? Or had they become ghosts in the dark? Back in the stronghold, Aaron trained with his unit. They moved like shadows, their weapons sleek and deadly. The Silent Guard was built for fear, not just destruction. Their job was to remind the galaxy of humanity's return before the thunder fell. One mission was given to Aaron and his soldiers. A Dominion fleet had captured a small colony near the rim. Thousands of innocent lives were enslaved. The council ordered Aaron to test the storm. Night fell on the colony. Alien guards marched across the streets. Chains clinked and hope was dying. Then the sky cracked with lightning. From above, black ships descended without a sound. Their weapons cut through defenses like fire through paper. The Silent Guard stormed the streets, their armor glowing with pale light. To the slaves, they looked like shadows with the strength of gods. To the aliens, they looked like death itself. Aaron led the charge, his voice cold. "For every chain, for every lie, we return." The thunder of human weapons echoed through the night. When the battle ended, the aliens lay broken. The slaves looked at their rescuers with wide eyes. "Who are you?" they whispered. Aaron answered with a single word: human. The colony was free, but the galaxy was shaken. Survivors carried tales of the storm soldiers, of thunder falling from the sky. The rulers of the Dominion gathered in panic. For centuries they had mocked the humans, called them extinct. But now, in their own lands, the humans had returned, and this was only the beginning. The galaxy trembled with whispers. Rumors of humans spread like fire across the stars. Some said they were ghosts, some said they were shadows, some said they were myths given flesh again. The rulers mocked the stories, but deep inside they were afraid. Because stories have roots, and fear always grows from truth. In the stronghold beneath the frozen world, the council gathered once more. Admiral Kalen stood before the glowing star maps. His voice carried across the chamber like rolling thunder. "The time of whispers is over. Now the storm must speak." The leaders agreed. Humanity would no longer hide. Humanity would rise. Aaron stood at the edge of the chamber, his heart racing. He had seen the Silent Guard's power, but this was different. This was not shadows in the dark. This was thunder that shook the galaxy, and he would be part of it. For centuries, humans had built their fleet in silence, ships larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, dark metal carved into shapes that seemed alive. Their hulls glowed with storm energy, a weapon forged from the fury of lightning itself. Each ship was armed with thunder cannons, weapons that could tear a fleet apart in a sing. La Blast, they called the first flagship Tempest. It was a giant of steel, a moving storm. Its engines roared like thunder, its weapons pulsed like lightning, and it was only one of many. The Silent Guard were the first to strike, but now the storm fleet would rise. Far across the stars, the Zale Dominion prepared for celebration. Their emperor declared a festival to mock the myth of humanity. In the great capital city, banners rose high, fireworks lit the sky. Humanity is dead, the emperor proclaimed, and we are eternal. The crowd cheered, believing the lie. But in the dark skies above, something stirred. The Dominion's fleets patrolled the system, hundreds of ships armed with heavy weapons. They laughed at the thought of human resistance, but then their scanners burned with light. A storm opened in the void. Out of hyperspace, shadows appeared. At first one, then 10, then hundreds. The storm fleet arrived, black ships glowing with lightning, engines roaring like thunder across the stars. The Dominion captains froze, their voices shaking. Impossible, one whispered. They are extinct. The first cannon fired. It was not a sound, it was a roar, like the sky itself breaking. A beam of storm energy struck through space. A Dominion battleship split apart in seconds, its debris scattering like ash. Panic spread, fleets rushed forward, but they were too slow. From the Tempest, Admiral Kalen's voice echoed across every channel, his words sharp as blades. You believed us gone, you mocked our silence, but humanity does not vanish. Humanity returns, and we return with thunder. The storm fleet moved as one, their weapons unleashed waves of destruction. Ships exploded like sparks in a storm. The Dominion fleets broke, their lines shattered, commanders screamed orders, but no order could stop the storm. On the planet below, the festival turned to terror. People looked up as the night sky split apart. The roar of human cannons echoed across the atmosphere. Fear gripped every heart. Children asked their parents, "What is that sound?" And the answer came in trembling voices. Thunder. Aaron stood aboard his ship, watching the Dominion's might crumble. He remembered the stories of Earth, how humanity once fought with broken tools, now they fought with storms. He whispered to himself, "We are back." The battle raged for hours, but it was no battle at all. It was slaughter. One by one, Dominion fleets were destroyed. Their emperor, who had mocked humanity, watched as his ships turned to dust. His proud words died in his throat. When the sky grew silent, the storm fleet stood unchallenged. Above the capital, the Tempest cast its shadow. Admiral Kalen spoke again, this time not just to the Dominion, but to the galaxy. His voice carried through every channel, every signal, every listening ear. Remember this day. For centuries you thought us gone. You thought humanity weak, broken, forgotten. But we were watching, we were waiting, and now the storm has awakened. The thunder you hear is our return, and it will not stop. The message spread faster than light. Across every empire, every world, every alien ruler froze, remembering the name they had buried. Humanity. The storm they feared was real. The Dominion's capital lay in ruins, its fleet shattered, its emperor silent, and the galaxy finally understood. Humanity had returned, and with them came thunder. The galaxy had seen thunder, but now it would feel its bite. The storm fleet's arrival shattered the Dominion, but humanity's war was not about fear alone. It was about justice. It was about vengeance. For centuries, empires had enslaved, humiliated, and erased the memory of mankind. Now those same empires would answer. Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge of the Tempest, his eyes fixed on the glowing star map. Red markers pulsed, each one a reminder of past crimes, each one a world where humans had once bled. He raised his hand, his voice like stone. Today we strike. Aaron stood beside him, young but hardened by battles, his fists clenched as he looked at the map. One planet caught his eyes. Velkar Prime. Long ago, Velkar Prime had been the heart of humanity's suffering. When Earth's colonies fell, Velkar's overlords enslaved the survivors, forcing them into mines until they died. The galaxy had forgotten, but humanity never forgot. The storm fleet surged forward, their engines humming with stormlight. As they neared Velkar Prime, the defenders laughed. The Velkar warlords sat in their towers, drunk on arrogance. Their fleets, vast and shining, floated in orbit like a shield of iron. The warlords mocked the whispers of humanity. They are ghosts, they said. Our cannons will tear their shadows apart. But then the storm arrived. The sky cracked as the Tempest and her fleet descended. Thunder cannons roared, ripping through Velkar ships with merciless precision. Entire cruisers exploded in waves of fire, scattering like sparks across the void. Panic spread through Velkar's command centers. Captains screamed into their comms, "They are real! The humans are real!" The warlords watched in horror as their fleets collapsed within minutes. Their proud defenses burned, their mighty ships shattered. The storm fleet moved like predators, every strike precise, every blast final. The Velkar commanders begged for reinforcements, but none came. Fear paralyzed their allies, none dared face the storm. On the ground, Velkar cities trembled as human soldiers descended. The silent guards struck with deadly silence. Their black armor reflected lightning as they moved through the streets. Chains were broken, prisons opened. For the first time in centuries, human slaves looked into the eyes of their liberators and saw themselves reflected back. Aaron led his squad through the mines. He saw men and women broken and tired. Their eyes widened at the sight of him. One whispered, trembling, "Who are you?" Aaron lifted, his weapon high, his voice clear, "We are human, and we have come home." The words spread like fire through the tunnels. The enslaved rose, their chains cast aside. Together with the silent guard, they stormed the streets. For every cry of freedom, thunder answered in the skies above. The Velkar warlords, once untouchable, now cowered in their citadels. One by one, their towers fell. Human cannons tore through steel and stone alike. The warlords begged for mercy, but humanity gave none. For centuries, mercy had been denied to them. Now vengeance was the only answer. When the last tower fell, Admiral Kalen broadcast across Velkar Prime. His face filled the skies, his voice filled every ear. "You called us extinct. You enslaved our people. You buried our name in chains and dust. But humanity does not die. Humanity remembers. Today we strike. Tomorrow we rise." The message was heard not just on Velkar Prime, but across the galaxy. Allies of the Velkar trembled, neutral empires whispered in panic, and oppressed worlds began to stir. They saw hope where none had been. If the humans had returned, maybe the storm could free them too. Aaron stood in the ruined city as dawn broke. The air was filled with smoke and ash, but also with the cries of freedom. He looked up at the storm ships above and whispered, "This is only the beginning." But in the shadows of the galaxy, not all were afraid. Some rulers watched with envy, others with anger. They began to gather, forging alliances in secret. They would not let humanity's thunder rise unchecked. And so, as Velkar Prime burned, the galaxy prepared. The humans had struck their first blow, but the storm was far from over. The first strike was done. The war had truly begun. The fall of Velkar Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In a single night, an empire that had once enslaved millions collapsed under the storm. The message was clear. Humanity had returned, and no power could hide from their thunder. In distant palaces, alien rulers sat in silence. Their councils met in secret, their voices filled with fear. Some demanded action, others demanded peace, but all felt the same cold truth. The galaxy had mocked humanity for centuries. Now that laughter had turned to trembling, on the world of Krathus, the Dominion warlords gathered. The hall was filled with the stench of fear. Holograms flickered with the faces of rulers from across the stars. Their voices cracked as they argued. "If they are back, they must be stopped," one growled. Another whispered, "Stopped? How do you stop thunder?" Some wanted to launch a joint fleet. Others wanted to send envoys with gifts. But Zayron, the strategist who had once warned of humanity's return, spoke again. His voice was calm, but his words cut like blades. "You fools mocked me before, and now you tremble. Humanity has changed. They are not the same race we defeated long ago. They watched us, studied us, and now they strike with weapons we cannot understand. If we face them in open war, We will fall. But before more words could be spoken, a sudden broadcast filled the chamber. Every ruler froze as Admiral Kalen's face appeared on their screens, his eyes sharp as lightning, his voice carrying across every empire. You believed us extinct. You built your empires on our ashes. You turned our name into a joke, but we endured, and now the thunder you hear is our answer. We will free every slave, break every chain, and tear down every tyrant. Stand in our way, and you will fall. The broadcast ended. Silence followed, silence heavy as a grave. On world after world, the people whispered the same word, human. For the oppressed, it became a word of hope. For the rulers, it became a word of terror. Meanwhile, in the hidden stronghold, humanity, prepared for the next strike, the storm fleet grew larger. New warships rolled out of vast factories. The silent guard trained harder. Children were raised with one purpose: to carry the storm across the stars. Aaron stood in the training grounds, watching soldiers move like shadows. Their weapons sparked with stormlight, their eyes burned with purpose. He felt the weight of destiny pressing on his shoulders. His people were not just surviving anymore, they were rising, and the galaxy would not be ready. But fear has its own power. In the dark corners of the galaxy, rulers who once hated each other now whispered alliances. The Dominion, the Krathus Lords, the Sarath Guilds, all sworn enemies, now spoke of unity. They believed only one thing could save them: to destroy humanity before the storm consumed everything. A secret fleet began to form. Thousands of ships gathered in hidden docks. Commanders swore vengeance. If thunder has returned, we will answer with fire, they declared. But deep inside, doubt poisoned their hearts. Because no fire is louder than thunder, the galaxy's fear was not just in palaces and war rooms. It was in the streets, on colonies. People looked to the stars with unease. Traders refused to travel. Pirates vanished into hiding. Whole worlds fell silent when the name of humans was spoken. The thunder was not only heard, it was felt. Back aboard the Tempest, Admiral Kalen studied reports of unrest. A smile flickered across his face, not of joy, but of grim satisfaction. They are afraid, he said. Fear will break them before our cannons do. Aaron listened, and for the first time he understood the truth. The thunder was not only a weapon, it was a symbol. It was the sound of power returning to those who had been silenced. It was the promise that humanity would never bow again. But even as fear spread, danger grew. Somewhere in the galaxy, the secret fleet was preparing, an alliance of enemies, desperate and united. Humanity had shaken the stars, but the storm ahead would. It'd be greater than any they had faced. As night fell over the hidden stronghold, Aaron looked into the sky. His heart burned with fire, his voice a whisper. Let them come. The storm will not break. The storm will rise. And in the darkness, thunder rumbled once more. The galaxy was no longer silent. It roared with fear, with rebellion, with the thunder of a race once forgotten. Humanity had awakened, and now their voice carried farther than their cannons. After the fall of Velkar Prime, broadcasts of freedom spread across the stars. Slaves who once bowed now whispered the name human with trembling hope. Entire colonies, long crushed under alien boots, began to rise. Their rebellions small at first, but fueled by a single belief. If humans could return, then no tyrant was eternal. From the bridge of the Tempest, Admiral Kalen watched the chaos unfold. Reports filled his screens, uprisings in the Krathus mines, riots in Dominion cities, pirate guilds swearing loyalty to the storm. His voice was calm but heavy with power. The galaxy is no longer theirs, he said. It is waking. It is ours. Aaron stood beside him, fire in his eyes. He had led missions, freed colonies, seen the terror in alien faces as thunder split the sky. But now he saw something greater. He saw entire worlds rising, not because of fear, but because of faith. Humanity had become more than a fleet, more than soldiers. Humanity had become a roar. The council of rulers across the galaxy gathered again in secret. Their voices were filled with panic. The humans are not just fighting us, one spat. They are changing everything. Another slammed his fist. We must crush them before this storm spreads. But deep inside, they all knew. The storm had already spread. The secret alliance fleet was finally ready. Thousands of ships forged by desperate hands hidden in black space. Commanders swore that this time thunder would fall, but as they prepared, Fear poisoned their plans. For every ship they built, another world turned against them. For every cannon they raised, another rebellion lit a fire. Meanwhile, the humans moved forward. The storm fleet traveled from world to world, not only destroying fleets, but broadcasting their message. Kalen's voice echoed across every system. We do not come as ghosts. We come as storm. We will free the chains you cannot break. We will silence the tyrants who silence you. Join us and rise. Entire planets answered. Colonies declared independence under the banner of thunder. On Sarath Prime, slaves stormed their masters' palaces while shouting, "We are human too. We are free." On Krathus worlds, entire battalions laid down their weapons, refusing to fight. The galaxy no longer belonged to fear alone. It belonged to the roar of rebellion. Aaron was sent to lead missions into these rising systems. He walked through streets filled with cheering crowds. People reached for his hands, their eyes wide with hope. "You came," they whispered. "You really came." And Aaron, once a boy asking when thunder would return, now stood as the answer. But the storm was not without cost. The more humanity rose, the more the secret alliance prepared. In their hidden fortress, warlords, guildmasters, and emperors sharpened their knives. "We will end them in one strike," they promised. "We will drown thunder in fire." Their fleets grew larger, darker, hungrier. Back aboard the Tempest, Kalen studied intelligence reports. His eyes narrowed. "They are gathering," he said. "They think unity will save them. They do not understand. Thunder does not fear unity. Thunder destroys it." His words were calm, but the weight behind them shook every officer. Aaron looked at the maps. Thousands of enemy ships, billions of soldiers, a war greater than anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Fear tugged at him. But then he remembered the people cheering, the voices rising, the roar that now Isha would across the stars, and he whispered, "We are not alone anymore." The galaxy itself had become divided, half trembling in fear of humans, half rising in hope of them. Entire systems burned with rebellion. Tyrants felt their power crumbling. The order of centuries was breaking, all because the humans had returned. And in the silence before the final storm, the galaxy asked one question, whispered in every palace and every street. What happens when thunder meets the fire of every empire combined? Aaron stood at the edge of the command deck, his eyes fixed on the stars, his voice steady, his heart unshaken. "They will hear our roar." And across the galaxy, thunder answered. The galaxy had held its breath. For months the storm had risen, tearing apart empires, freeing chains, igniting rebellion. But now the rulers of the stars gathered their answer. The secret alliance was no longer a whisper. It was a monster of steel. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of cannons, fleets so vast they darkened entire systems. From hidden docks they emerged, united by desperation, Dominion warlords, Krathus lords, Sarath guild masters, all sworn enemies now standing together. Their voices thundered across the void. "We will crush humanity. We will burn their storm. We will silence thunder forever." On the bridge of the Tempest, Admiral Kalen stood in silence. His officers watched him, their hearts heavy with the reports. Never in history had such a fleet been gathered. It was more than war. It was fear turned into steel. Kalen's voice finally broke the silence, calm and steady. "So they have gathered, good. Let them come. The storm does not run. The storm answers." Aaron felt the weight of the moment. He stood at his post, staring at the star maps glowing with red markers. The enemy was everywhere, stretching across the system like a sea of fire. His chest tightened, but his hands did not shake. He whispered to himself, "This is what we were born for." The battle began at dawn. The Alliance fleet surged forward, their cannons blazing. Thousands of beams lit up the void. Entire asteroid fields shattered under the first barrage. The storm fleet trembled under the fire, but it did not break. The Tempest roared back. Thunder cannons unleashed their fury. Stormlight tore through enemy lines. Whole formations split apart in seconds. The sky filled with explosions, debris raining like meteors. The void shook with the clash of fire and thunder. Everywhere Aaron looked, chaos raged. Ships collided, soldiers screamed, worlds trembled beneath the battle above. But in that chaos, humanity stood unbroken. Their black ships cut through the enemy like blades through smoke. The storm did not scatter. It grew louder, stronger, deadlier. On the enemy's command ship, warlords shouted in rage. "They do not break," one screamed. "They are only men. Break them." But even as they poured every weapon, every soldier, the humans did not fall. Admiral Kalen's voice echoed across the battlefield. "You are not fighting men. You are fighting history. You are fighting vengeance. You are fighting the storm." Hours passed, the battle turning into slaughter. Rebellions rose on Alliance worlds, citizens refusing to fight, slaves breaking their chains. Even as the Great Fleet crumbled, the roar of freedom grew. The alliance that was built on fear began to collapse from within. Eren led his squad onto the enemy flagship. The silent guards stormed the halls, their armor glowing with stormlight. The warlords cowered behind their guards, but none could stop the humans. Thunder shook the walls as Eren's blade cut through the last defense. He looked into the terrified eyes of the rulers who had mocked his people for centuries. "This is the end," he said, his voice calm but sharp as lightning. "Humanity has returned." With that, the flagship fell. The command of the Alliance shattered. Across the stars, enemy fleets broke, their souls soul. Dyers fleeing, their captains surrendering. The storm had won. When silence finally returned to the galaxy, it was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of awe. The humans stood victorious, their thunder echoing across every system. Admiral Kalen broadcast once more. His image filled the skies of thousands of worlds. His voice carried into every palace, every street. "For centuries you thought us gone. For centuries you laughed at our name. But we endured, we waited, and today we return. Humanity does not die. Humanity rises, and from this day forward, humanity will never be forgotten." Across the stars, billions cheered. Slaves lifted their chains high and broke them. Free people shouted the name human as a banner of hope. Tyrants bowed in silence, for they knew the age of thunder had begun. Eren stood on the bridge of the tempest, the stars before him endless. His heart was steady, his voice a whisper. "We are home." And as the galaxy listened, thunder rolled across the stars, not as fear, but as the sound of humanity's return.